My mother was a tremendous lover of the horror genre, so horror has always been a large part of my life. She loved Stephen King's novels, The Exorcist, and while I wasn't horror, she loved films like Scarface. So her watching horror films with me made me fall in love with the genre. My favourite horror films at the time was the Gremlins franchise. Later I'd fall in love with shark films when I overcame my fear of sharks, as seen in the top right or in the eye icon. However, this is not the time for me to join the horror community. Everything would begin in 2007 when I received my first laptop, when YouTube first became popular, and my love for horror truly begun. PewDiePie was my first introduction to the larger horror community. Watching all of his playthroughs of various horror games was a fun way to pass the time, and served as a stepping stone into the other gaming channels. My opportunity to descend deeper down the rabbit hole would be on June 22nd, 2012, the first episode of Creepy Gaming. This was it. This is what I wanted to see, showing me that games were more than just gameplay. Easter eggs were so fascinating to me that each game has the potential to hide something, and I just wanted to uncover it. So began my time to hunt. I would then use YouTube as a guide to uncover the secrets of gaming, such as cheat codes for games like GTA 3, or glitches such as the hanging shadow of the Luigi's Mansion. Even learn about characters like the infamous Doug Ratman, who I only heard about while waiting for Portal 2. The only series left for me to seek is Sonic. I'm curious where that will lead me. As it turns out, this is the beginning of my return to Creepypastas. Now I did say return because this was not the first encounter I had with Creepypastas. However, while it was a big deal online, I did not take a liking to them. I used to watch some YouTubers talk about big ones like Jeff the Killer, Smiledog and Slenderman. However, after discovering the Sonic.exe fan game, I would binge all the Creepypastas I could. It's all because of some ordinary gamers. Aside from discussing about the series at school, I'd start playing fan games like Tails' Curse. Only later did I find out that the cursed doll is from Sonic R. Oh, and an interesting story to tell. I would learn the word ellipses, and what they are, with a few other words as a result of viewing Mutahar's Sonic.exe video. As a result, my teacher was impressed with my English skills, so I guess watching all of these Let's Plays did something for me after all. At this point, I was well accustomed to the online horror communities, with the help of who I've mentioned, but I feel as if I need to go over a big thanks to Mr. Creepypasta, who made listening to the stories a lot more enjoyable, even though it may not be the most well known, and looking back it was not that scary of a story. He made the Laughing Jack Creepypasta that more enjoyable. It goes to show you that the right person can make all the difference. Speaking of difference, if you wish to make a difference, why not subscribe and like the video? It's free and helps me out a ton. Thank you. Now before I proceed, we need to take a step back so that I can assist people interested in getting started or progressing in the horror community. When I originally started making horror videos, my goal was to bring back the reasons why horror was so thrilling. It is obvious that horror is subjective with different phobias, yet there are several elements that can work in horror that the mainstream have butchered. Look no further than jump scares, romance, and excessive blood use. I say these three because they are easy to get an immediate reaction from the audience. Keep in mind that jump scares and blood use can be done correctly, which I shall discuss soon. However, jump scares are employed even when there's nothing terrifying is happening, or are used so frequently in a film that when anything does happen, you are most likely conditioned to it. Overuse of blood is similar in that it is used so frequently that you become desensitized to it, even though you may be frightened at first. Oh, and before anyone asks, yes, slasher films do exist and they can be done right. I even love that subgenre, but the ones that go for horror and do well, even then don't need to show blood all the time to get you hooked on what you are watching. Romance on the other hand has its own set of issues. I won't get into much detail on why romance has been butchered in horror, however I will attribute it to two issues. The first is that the romance undermines the terror by diluting it down, or two, simply attempting to attract teen viewers by being edgy or focusing all of the horror on how attractive the protagonists are and how dreadful their circumstances must be. That was a negative and what you should avoid, but what are the positives of horror? While this is not required, I believe that the ideal method of horror to thrive is the best described as a roller coaster. Just as it should intrigue you before going on one and while being seen, this should be compared to the opening scene of a movie. The beginning should precisely set the mood. We should only be receiving a taste of what the movie has in store for us. When the roller coaster begins to move, compare it to the end of the introductory scene, or when the title card appears. It gradually draws you further in until you reach the payoff, like as riding up a little hill. It is then up to the designer or director in this situation to ensure that the roller coaster can incorporate the twists, bends, and drops at the appropriate times, making certain that the rider is not over bombarded. Now before I finish off this video, I'm going to go off script here and just talk to you the viewer quickly. Now, a lot of people are going to start different places in the horror community and have different phobias, so please remember that. Don't try and make it a race, or if you do have a phobia that someone else doesn't, don't try and feel bad. Again, a lot of these are rational fears and have nothing to do with the person. It can just come from childhood or anything like that, so please bear that in mind. And even if you do get over it, and if you want help with that, please go check out my shark video, link in the eye and down below. Anyway, please remember sometimes it can come back. Even though I've gotten rid of my shark phobia completely, I still sometimes get it where like, oh, what if a shark pops up in the pool or anything like that. I laugh it off now because it just pops in my head. So again, it can come like that, but obviously you're going to have different ways of dealing with it. But just try and remember to calm down and think rationally. That's the best advice I can give to those struggling with a lot of different phobias. For those curious to what's coming next for my horror videos, while I don't know exactly which one it is, I do have a couple in mind. Mainly being PSAs or Fear of the Ocean, because I did have that at one point, and probably kids horror. Those are the three that I've got in mind at the moment. But anyway, that's been it from me, 𝕬𝕬𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒𝕒, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.